All right, B-Sides Rochester, how are you guys? Sweet, they're awake. It is like crazy early in the morning, or at least it is for me, because I've been on the road all week. I did the West Coast, I did the East Coast, I've been everywhere. So I actually had the experience of waking up the other day where I had 3 clocks that all said 3 different things. And I didn't know what day it was, I didn't know what time it was, I didn't know where I was. But I'm here, and you're here, and it is awesome. I'm so excited to be here. This is super cool. So let's dive in right away. I got a question for you. Show of hands, how many of you were that kid? You know what I'm talking about, right? Every toy got taken apart. We wanted to figure out how it worked. Everything had super cool technology in it that we wanted to know how it worked. I was no different. You know, I got my first exposure to computers when I was 4. So my father was an accountant. They were converting an accounting system, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, he brought home his computer over the holidays so that he didn't have to sit in an empty office by himself, closing the books, converting the system, doing all this stuff. So 1981, I'm going to say my father pioneered working from home. You can argue that, but you know, I'm sure somebody probably did it before then. But that got me started, and it was that curiosity. I always wanted to know, how did this stuff work? You know, and it's why I took apart all my toys. It's why I took apart, much to my parents' frustration, you know, things like the VCR, the TV. People in here do know what VCRs are, right? Yeah. I can't even make that reference anymore, but we're going to get even better. I haven't ended yet dating myself here. But yeah, so that's where my world started. That to me is the core of a hacker identity, right? And this is why I tell people, like, I've been a hacker my entire life. It's not something I became. It's not something I wanted to be. It's just who I was. So 12 years old. Let's fast forward a few years. I'm 12. I wanted money to spend. I went and got a paper route. Now, by this point, I had already been, you know, like I said, I got my first experience with computers. I was fortunate enough to be in a school where we actually had a computer lab. Started off with trash 80s that didn't have any disk drives, so they were completely useless for anything except typing practice and programming. Because when you turned them on, since there was no operating system, they just opened up to a basic programming prompt. Sweet, okay. But so anyway, 12 years old, I want to get a paper route. Now, there's another reference that a lot of people now don't even understand anymore, but think about this oddity of child labor. Like, we send a bunch of kids running around in the wee hours of the morning to throw newspapers on people's doorsteps. But it paid. And I worked hard, and it paid a lot. So I saved up about a little over $1,000. And this 12-year-old took $1,000-some and went to Best Buy and bought a computer. Okay? Now, maybe by today's standards, that's a little more normal. This was the 80s when, like, we didn't all have these things in our homes, right? Can you imagine being 12 years old, having $1,000, burning a hole in your pocket, and the thing you go buy is a computer? But that's what I wanted. That's what I was into. That is the computer I bought. Epson, Equity, something. That's the computer. And a little while later, I bought a modem. Oh, the world gets started now, right? How many of you remember this screen? Yes! You got the disc, it came with the computer, or in my case, I think it actually came with the modem. Hey, 20 free hours, just sign up and go. Cool. Little 12-year-old me pops it in, you know, loads it up, fires up the program. Whoops, I jumped ahead. Come on. Come back to me. There's Prodigy. So 12-year-old me, you know, I set this thing up and whatever. I used up my 20 hours. Now, newsflash, most 12-year-olds in the 80s didn't have credit cards. Probably still don't today. So 20 hours ran out. What am I going to do? I was playing games. I liked Prodigy. I was talking to people. It was really, really cool. But my 20 hours is gone. My parents weren't going to pay for that. Yeah, I went to the library. I got books on UART and serial comms and modem control languages. I learned the Hayes instruction set. I got into all sorts of stuff. Found this cool little thing what today we would call client-side validation. That's where the authentication happened, all right? There was nothing on the server side to stop you. If you had the flag in the client, you dialed up, you were in. I had free access to Prodigy. I did that for 2 years. They never fixed it. I mean, today, oh my God, I'm sure I would get busted, right? I mean, there's no way they wouldn't catch that. Like they probably have reports that run at everything. You'd see something like that, but back then, no one knew. It was great. And see, I can say this now because the statute of limitations on the CFAA is passed. Trust me, made sure of that too. Like, can't admit to this stuff. So that was 89, 90, 91-ish maybe. But something really cool happened in 1991. Anyone know? What happened in 1991? The internet came to us. It was made public to us to use. So now I'm this crazy teenager who is the complete geek, completely just, I'm the bullied one. No one understands who I am. What is this stuff that I'm doing? I found this. How many of you slapped somebody with a trout? IRC? Yes, yes. Oh my God, I found my family there. I got on the internet, I found IRC, I found my way into Undernet, and I started finding some really cool rooms in Undernet where people were doing the same kinds of things I was doing. It was incredible. I found these people, it was like, you actually get me. No one at school does. They all think I'm insane. They got me. My family was there through those years of high school age where everything, you're learning how to be you and you're trying to figure out who the heck you even is. I was in there with those folks. Again, shaping my identity as a hacker just from the very beginning, it is always something that's been there with me. But then I had to do the adult thing. I had to start adulting. I had to get a job. Oh my God, I had to go to school. I went to college, thought I was going to be a doctor. By the way, quick side note, 3 semesters of college level chemistry will tell you very fast if you are actually cut out to be a doctor. That wasn't happening. I'm telling you, these people, oh my God, I realized I was not ready for this. I'm on a Friday night, I'm like, okay, where's the party? Everybody else in the room's on, it's Friday night, where's our study room? It's Friday night. Come on, y'all. Let's go party. No. So I found out really fast that was not for me. I got into a computer science degree program at Marquette University. Okay, cool. I know how to program. I've been doing this for a while. This should be super easy, right? Yeah, okay. Maybe not, but it worked out. But I was still in that degree program. Now think about this. This is now the late 90s, all right? There was a big thing going on then. Anyone hear this? We called it the dot-com boom. Man, if you could write hello world, they were hiring you. Okay? I mean, like they needed programmers so fast. No one knew what this internet thing was going to be. If you could do it, they wanted you. So while I was still working there, I got my first job at M&I Data Services. I was a programmer. I was a programmer there for 9 years. Before somebody came to me from the information security team and said, hey, I want you to come join our information security team. We've got a security test team I want you to be a part of. The hell's a security test team? Oh, you're going to do penetration testing. What the? I don't know what that is. And this is the first real life-changing moment, I would say, in my career was, she says to me, you're smart. You'll figure it out. That's why I want you. You hear that come at you like that tells you, I don't care how scary it is that this, to jump off this cliff, like, oh my God, someone believes in me that much, I'm there. I did it. Joined the security test team. Within a year, I was leading the security test team. We were responsible for penetration testing, vulnerability management, all the way across that entire organization. At the time, we were about 6,500 people. We were now named Metavante. A few years later, we got bought out by a big company you might still know today, FIS. Any of you that work in financial services, you've definitely heard of these folks. Largest financial services provider. And by services provider, I mean they are like SaaS apps these days for banks, for insurance companies, for mutual funds, you name it. They do all of that. And I'm 29 years old, leading vulnerability management and penetration testing for this Fortune 200 company. All because someone said, "You're smart, you'll figure it out." Never even knew this could be a job. So my 15 years that I spent in financial services, I'm out. I need to see something else. There's more to the world than financial services. I'm tired of banking. I went and I started working at Fishnet. Well, want to guess who they put me on for clients? Financial services. But I did get to see some other really cool stuff before they merged with Accuvant, and I said, yep, Optiv, see ya, bye. Went to Aspect Security. Took a leap here because they said, hey, we want you to be the leader for our program services practice. Okay, here I am again. What the hell does that mean? Come on. And they tell me, okay, you're going to work with, high-level security leaders. You're going to work with CEOs, CISOs, CIOs. You're going to help them build application security programs in their massive financial services companies. Man, that just never went away. But, again, I'm like, wait. I've been, leading a pen test team at Fishnet. You want me to work with, like, these executive people? Are you crazy? Have you met me? You want me to talk to them? Okay, fine. So here we go. So I take that on, right? They're great. Again, they believed in me. And that went really super cool. Another thing that was really scary about that was a 50 people company. I had never worked for a company that small. Super cool. It ended up being a great experience right up until they got bought by Ernst & Young. Talk about culture shock. Holy crap. I went from 50 people where I knew everybody I worked with to 250,000. No one knew who the hell I was. So I got out of that pretty fast. I went to CDW. There's a name I'm sure you all heard. Walking to CDW, and I'm sitting there thinking, the number of times I have complained and moaned and groaned about our VARs, our resellers. I'm going to the enemy. Yay. All right. So I did that. I got in there and things went, it ended up being a really good experience. That's when I really started getting into this. Coming and sharing time with all of you, being here, standing in front of rooms of people, mostly because it was a great way to meet people at conferences. I didn't stand around awkwardly in the hall anymore. Now I could meet people. That was cool. But so it was another step. Then I decided, okay, I haven't worked for enough of the enemy yet. I'm actually going to go work for a vendor, and I joined Sneak. All right, cool. First time with a startup. That was an exciting experience. But again, a leap of faith because I had never worked for a vendor. I had never worked in a startup. I'd heard all sorts of horror stories about working for startups. Turns out Sneak is pretty kind of cool. I liked them. So I was at CDW for 18 months. Then I went to Sneak. I worked for Sneak for exactly, to the day, 1 year. Why exactly 1 year? Because that's when my stock vested. I didn't actually intend to leave, though. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I planned this out. No, it was, I got another serendipitous opportunity. A colleague of mine worked at S&P Global. She was the CISO. She said, hey, we need a BISO, a Business Information Security Officer. So here's Alyssa, once again. What the hell is a BISO? All right, dig in, find out. This sounds really cool. Wait, okay, so I'm going to lead cybersecurity program for a division of the company, not the whole company. All right, got that. That makes sense. I can do that. Hopped in there, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be cool. I'm going to work in this business, and I'm gonna work with the development teams and tell them all about security and whatever. You know what I spent most of my time doing? Telling that frickin' CISO organization, y'all are idiots and you're screwing up the business. You need to do this different. But it was exciting. It was fun. It was a new challenge. I learned a ton by doing that. But I was there 18 months. Because then I got another serendipitous opportunity. Another colleague of mine came to me and said, hey, I'm leaving my position at Epic. I'm going to go join a big financial services company, of course. they're doing a search. If you have any interest, just shoot your resume to this email, and I'm sure somebody will be in touch. A couple months later, I'm sitting at RSA. I get a phone call. Yeah, we're going to send you an offer letter, but here, let's talk it through. I stand here now 8 months later. I've been a CISO for 8 months. For me, that was kind of like the culmination. Like, that was the goal. That was the thing I looked to for all my career. But the theme here is, hopefully you've picked up on a couple things. That uncertainty, that desire, that willingness to jump and take a chance, to do something I didn't think I could do, to do something I didn't even know what it was. But it was that curiosity to see something new, to learn how it worked, to see, what does a BSO do? What is program services? What does it mean to build an application security program? All of these things. It was all new and different. And there were so many lessons learned in this process, let me tell you. So let's talk about some of these lessons learned, because these are the things I think for you as you go through your career, whether your desire is to get to a CISO, whether your desire is, hey, I'm a hacker today and I just want to get into more of a corporate job. Yeah, I know, shivers and chills and cringes, I get it. But these are going to be important lessons for you to understand. Because if you want to build a career here, I think these are things that are going to be helpful. So let's start at the beginning. First and foremost, mistakes will happen. See this query here? Okay. Some of you that know SQL are already laughing, because you know what the next part of this story is. 2.4 million rows affected, and that was the look on my face. This ran in production. This code was supposed to have been commented. It was not. I also did something, and I tried to go back and remember what it was. There was something else about the way I wrote out this PL SQL block that it bypassed the two-stage commit. So there was no rollback. 2.5 million payment instructions, because at FIS, what I worked on was their bill payment system. But you know what? No one yelled at me. No one told me I was an idiot. We dug in, we fixed it. You know why? Because everybody in this industry has the story like this. It happens to all of us. We spent 3 days recovering from this because, again, this is early, mid-90s, late 90s, I guess. No, 2000s. But still, we didn't have systems like we have today where we can immediately mirror stuff in the cloud and do all sorts of really cool stuff for backups, right? No. We had 1 backup a day. So the solution was you take the backup, recover to that point, then you take the application logs from the 8 application servers across this multi-tier application, you take all those logs, and you replay them. So we had to replay like gigabytes worth of logs in order to get the database back to the point where it was when I deleted all those payments. Everybody has done this. If you haven't had a story like this yet, you're going to have one. The thing to remember is this happens to everybody. It does not mean that you're a screw-up. It does not mean that you're just not cut out for this. Stay the course, because these things happen. This is how we learn. I will guarantee you, I never again had a query that ran without a very, very controllable 2-stage commit. I also approached these things a little different when I was building this. I also didn't run things in production, but that's another story. So the second lesson. This is one I think we in security are starting to learn, but I need to stress it. Fear is not a motivator. There's a lot of conversation in the cybersecurity industry about the use of FUD and how ineffective it is. FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, if you're not familiar. We love, for as long as I've been in security, we have loved to go to people and tell them, well, if you do this, the whole world is going to explode. But the world never explodes. Neuroscience tells us when you try to lead with fear, you're going to try to motivate somebody with fear. It does not work. And here's why. It's really simple. Because what does fear do? Fear elicits a fight or flight response. Let's get that right. But the reality is our default as humans, part of the human condition is in a fight or flight scenario, our default, even for the crazy aggressive folks out there, our default still is flight first. We try to avoid it. You tell a child, hey, if you go in that lake, you're going to drown. They kind of stay away from the water sometimes. I mean, kids are kind of dumb too, so I've got 3 of my own. But, you tell them you're going to get burned if you touch that hot stove. They stay away. You start telling an executive, you start telling your CISO, you start telling your manager, hey, this really horrible thing is going to happen if we do this. They avoid you. And that's what ends up happening. So this is where we get surveys done in the UK where they tell us that, 75% of the executive suite looks at the CISO as the doom and gloom mongers, right? I mean, that's not how we as cybersecurity people get what we're looking for. We're trying to get them to invest in us. We want them to take positive action. We want them to make changes in the organization. But when we lead with fear, they just avoid us. They say, get out of here. I don't want you in my boardroom. Go away. Now, that's becoming less and less common because they're kind of getting forced to have us in the boardroom, but that's another story. But that fear leads to my next lesson, and that is InfoSec advice is very nuanced. How many of you have heard this, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? Sounds great. And the meaning behind it makes sense. But here's the problem. A lot of times we think, never let a good crisis go to waste. That means, yeah. We had a breach, so now I've got an open checkbook. Well, maybe you do, and I can speak from experience that yes, that happens, right? And we see it. Companies spend more on cybersecurity in the 18 months following a breach than they do at any other time. It's astronomically different. But there comes a reckoning to that. Because if you're spending money hand over fist and you're not making progress, you're not making demonstrable progress, or you're not helping them understand how cybersecurity is a process, what happens when you get breached again? And now they're asking about that open checkbook they gave you. The value in a breach is building a culture of security awareness. I work in an organization that had a breach in 2020, and I can tell you this because it was widely publicized. Our competitors, up until recently, now that they're all suddenly getting breached, have been using it against us. And when I say breach, I don't even mean data breach. I mean, we had a ransomware event. They actually didn't lose any data. Nothing got exposed. But they had systems that were down for days and weeks because they were completely unprepared. My predecessor was basically given that open checkbook. But the important thing is that we have a solid culture because everybody remembers this. You get onboarded to this organization, and I just went through it. It's like palpable. It's the first thing you hear about. It's this infamous event of 2020. By the way, our phishing tests, yeah, we do phishing tests, I know. But they're still a tool. 2% click rate. Do you know what the industry average is? It's 10%. We send out an email, I kid you not, this is the most amazing thing just happened this week. We send out an email from the security team, big bold letters across the top. It says, this is not spam, you need to follow these instructions. I got 5 emails from people saying, is this really legit? Bravo to you. Thank you for emailing me that because that's amazing. Yes, that's how I want people thinking. That is how you make value out of a crisis. It's not about fear, but it's about saying, hey, we experienced this thing. We don't want to go back to that. Here's some things we can do. Here's how we can help you protect yourselves. We're proactive. This whole thing with SVB came up this week, right? I think you might have heard something about this. A little bank out in California had some problems. They got shut down. Holy crap. Can't remember the last time a bank was taken over by the FDIC. There you go. Okay, she knows. 2008. I love it. Oh, my friends at WAMU. Yeah. But no, so we sent out proactive communication, but the communication wasn't just, hey, we might get this email at work. It was, hey, you might see spam at home. You might get phishing attempts at home. Here's what you need to educate your family on. Helping people really understand, see how this connects with their life. That's where you find value in a crisis. All right, next lesson. We say incredibly dumb things in this industry. Incredibly dumb things. How many of you have said this? And it's okay, because I have too, right? There's only two types of companies, those that have been breached and those that don't know they've been breached yet. Or, it's not if you get hacked, but when. The thing is, okay, so I'm not picking on Robert Mueller. I mean, okay, former FBI director. We can argue all day about that dude. But the reality is, this is kind of back to that nuance thing too, right? Like the meaning behind this is right. Like we understand it, right? Like the point here is we're saying we can't, technology is always evolving. For us to say that we're going to be breach proof, actual words seen at Black Hat, just not going to happen, right? So, I mean, let me tell you how dumb this is. And I say dumb because it is. Because it's counterproductive to you as a cybersecurity person. You're going to go to your cybersecurity leader, or you're going to go to your executives, you're going to go to the board, and you're going to walk into that room and you're going to say, well, it's not if we get breached, but when. Now spend $10,000 or $10 million or $100 million on this solution so we don't get breached. You just told me you can't stop it. So the idea here is right, but man, is that not the right way to go about it. You're trying to help them understand that, hey, you know what? Technology is always evolving, so we have to always be evolving with it. We're building a program here. We're building this out. So I can't stop you. We're going to focus on resiliency instead. We're going to try to stop them. We're going to do everything we can. But the key is we need to be resilient when they do break through. Now, let's start talking about you in your career. Moving at your own pace is super important. Now, the cardinal sin of presentation is putting an animated GIF, because I can already see all the eyes are glued to her, which is cool. But I did this because I wanted to catch the whole phrase. It's not just your own pace. Listen to your breath and your body and get started. And what I mean by this is there's going to be two forces that will impact you in the development of your career. One force is going to be the pressure that you're going to feel, probably from up here in yourself, but you will get it from other people too, to move as fast as you can. You got to keep going. You got to keep progressing. You got to set another goal. You got to go get that goal. And then you got to achieve that, and you got to set another goal. You got to get there. You got to set up a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan. It's just exhausting to even say it. Find your pace. There's nothing that says you have to get there tomorrow. Enjoy this ride because you're going to have a lot of fun with it. On the flip side, you're going to get pressure from people who are going to tell you, you're trying to move too fast, slow down. You work that job for a while. Why did I tell you that I spent 18 months, then 1 year, then 18 months at jobs? Because what do people tell you? Oh, that's horrible, you're job hopping, what are you doing? Don't do that. I wouldn't be a CISO right now if I'd listened to that advice. So find what's meaningful to you. Don't let artificial outside influences like that tell you what the right thing is for you to do. I didn't seek out to spend 18 months, then 1 year, then 18 months, and jump and jump and jump. They were opportunities that came my way, but they were opportunities I knew I could take advantage of. They were opportunities I knew I could be good at, or I was pretty sure I could be anyway. So I did it, and it worked out. So find your pace, and that pace may change. It's going to ebb and flow, but don't let those outside voices or the voices in your own head stop you from going at the pace that fits and makes you comfortable. Here's another one. This is really important. Titles don't matter. How many of you have said that? Huh? I have. And I can tell you it hurt my career. What I've found, so titles don't matter until they do. What do I mean by that? Nobody wants to be that person that's seen as like just, all about the title, right? And I get that, right? Like, I mean, comparing titles and being like, oh, you're a manager, but I'm a senior manager, therefore I am better than you. Yeah. Kiss off, I mean, bullshit. Shut up. We're all here together. In fact, my teams know that they're not allowed to call me boss. They don't work for me. I work with them. They work for the company, That's like the first thing I tell any team. Like, use that word boss, we're going to have problems. No. You're the smart people. Titles don't matter in that sense, but where titles do matter is in the development of your career. Okay? Titles matter. Titles are an insidious thing that companies will use to hold you back. I've taken titles that I knew were, quote unquote, beneath me, and by that I just simply mean I was overqualified for them. Okay? Went to a company, I'm not going to tell you which one of the many that you saw up there, you can guess. I was interviewing for a director role. They said, we're going to fill that director role with somebody else. It's an internal candidate. Okay, fine, great. No, wait, but we're going to create a job for you. We want to bring you in as a manager. I'm a manager already. Yeah, but you're going to build a team. Okay, cool, I'll do it. Well, it was great. I mean, I really had a good time. I built an amazing team. They were incredibly powerful set of consultants. Now I'm just kind of getting closer to exposing who that it was. But no, seriously, I mean, wonderful. I learned a ton. But then when it came time to go to the next job, they're looking at my resume. They say, oh, you're a manager. You're not a manager of managers. And that kept me from getting a director position. Son of a bitch. So titles do matter, okay? And it is important that you keep progressing your titles if that's your goal, if you want to continue to move that up. Now, you may get to a point in your career where your pace says, hey, you know what, I'm actually cool just being a manager. I'm going to make more of a lateral move. But make sure you're doing that for you. Make sure you're not being pressured and told that you're not enough to be that next level up. All right, let's have a word. Vendors. Now, we have some really amazing sponsors who are really amazing vendors, so I'm going to disclaimer the living crap out of this. First of all, I love vendors. I do. I actually mean that because vendors make my life easier as a cybersecurity person. If I, as the cybersecurity person, understand what vendors do and what they don't do. The fact of the matter is vendors are chaotic neutral. What do I mean by that? They don't mean bad. They don't mean to do bad things. I believe there are vendors, some of them are very mission focused. I actually had someone from Mandiant come up to me yesterday when she saw a similar slide to this and said, I take issue with that. And I said, yes, I understand why, because Mandiant is very mission focused. But they are still there to make money, okay? At the end of the day, while they may care and they don't want to see you get breached, when does Mandiant make the most money? When you get freaking breached, okay? Like, that's what these people do. That is their job. That's how they exist. We live, for better or worse, in a capitalist society where that's how everything is driven by the want to make money. So just understand that about your vendors. They may be the nicest people. They will guide you. They will give you great information, but they are still going to throw some really weird marketing stuff at you. Every new blinky box they bring you, of course, is not going to be the magical, wonderful thing. But the biggest thing is when you see this $200 billion a year business, understand that you don't have to fill every one of these boxes. Your job as a cybersecurity professional is to figure out what out of these boxes are the things that your organization needs or your program needs or your program is ready to adopt. Because, well, yeah, you know what? I may want to bring in a full cloud security program. I might want to bring in CASB and all that crazy stuff. If my organization isn't ready to implement that, I'm just going to waste a lot of money, and it's never going to get implemented. And let me tell you, that is a mess I'm cleaning up right now. Back to that whole, blank check thing. All right, my favorite slide in this whole deck, the board. Board members will ask you dumb questions. but they're not dumb. These people are incredibly smart. There may be some cronyism involved there, sure, but these people do not get these jobs by accident. They are insanely smart people. They know how to build businesses. They've done it. They've got a track record of it. It's why people that know them want them on their boards. The whole point of a board is to advise. It's to be there to help make sure the company stays focused on what they need to be doing. That's that fiduciary responsibility, right? That's what a board's for. So when you start getting this opportunity, even if it's your executives, the same story. Like these people that don't work in cybersecurity, a lot of times we like to look at them and say, man, they're dumb. They just don't get this. Well, wait, whose job is it to educate them again? All of us. That's our job. We're there to educate them. True story from a company you know well. Walk into a board meeting, start talking about blah, 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 CISO, blah, 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 CISO, blah, blah, blah. Wait, can you stop for a second? What's a CISO? You're on the board of this massive organization and you don't know what a CISO is. Why? Well, you look at their background and you see why. You see what companies they work for. You see where they came from. They were working in companies that were very successful, but also weren't in a space at that point in time where CISOs were really a thing yet. Okay. You're there to educate. What a great opportunity to be able to explain to somebody what a CISO is. Because now I'm able to take that out of the context of my CISO, whom, full disclosure, I wasn't particularly thrilled with at the time. And I could express it in idealistic terms. This is what a CISO should be doing. Think about the power of that for a minute. I can tell you what a CISO is supposed to be doing so that when you go and look at our CISO that I don't like, you'll see what they're doing wrong. Oh, I like that opportunity. It's great when you're talking to a board. If you have that opportunity to really condition how they're going to govern the company, great. So what I'm telling you is know your audience here. Know where they come from. Know what their motivations are going to be. That's how you start to accelerate, because when people see that you can understand that part of it and you can talk to them, that matters. All right, back to your career for a minute. Let's talk about cybersecurity job descriptions. We suck at hiring in this industry. This is a job description, one job description. This is 3 pages of, full 1920 by 1080 that I had to screenshot one at a time. Who's this unicorn? It has, I can't even read these because the projector can't even do it, right? Like there's not even enough resolution in this projector to actually render this. That's how bad this is. So when you're looking for jobs, what I tell people, see that big block of text over there? It tells you what the company is about and what the job is about. Read that, throw the rest of that crap out. All right? There's studies out there that have talked about how women, feel the need to match 70 or 80% of the bullets before they'll apply, where men, it's like 30%, blah, blah, blah. I don't even care about it anyway. Throw that out the window. The fact is, I don't care who you are. Look at those paragraphs. If that sounds like something you think you can do, that sounds like something you think you can step into, make a meaningful commitment to, maybe you don't know it all, but you can learn it as you go, apply. Because they are not going to find the unicorn that matches all of those bullet points. So be the person that sends in the resume that surprises them and says, wow, this person really looks like they could probably do this job. Yeah, they don't have 10 years of Kubernetes experience. They don't have 30 years of AWS, right? Fuck. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen these. So, be the person that says, hey, you know what? That's okay. Your job description sucks, but I'm here anyway, and I want to take on this job. Because your next SOC analyst is probably a barista right now. And I can justify this. So yesterday, newsflash, I gave a very similar talk to this yesterday, a little bit different, but they laughed when I threw this up here. I'm like, wait, don't laugh. I mean this. So if you take a barista for a minute, take all the context of cybersecurity, or coffee rather, out of this, cybersecurity too, and just focus on, let's describe their job in terms where it's not obvious what industry we're talking about. All right? What do? They take lots of inputs from multiple sources. They take those inputs, they translate them into tasks, they prioritize those tasks and execute them. They execute them with quality, all while at the same time they're also executing maintenance tasks as well. Doesn't that sound kind of like what I want a SOC analyst doing? Core transferable skills that transcend industries. If you don't have the experience to back up what they're asking for, show them where you've got the skills from other jobs and apply that and apply it in those terms. Take all the industry stuff out of it and just say, hey, this is stuff I've done. And that's the reality. All right, this is obvious, but it's not. This is the source of so much imposter syndrome for folks. We have this huge domain of cybersecurity, and I apologize for the lack of contrast here. But we have this huge domain of cybersecurity. No one, not Dave Kennedy and his company, who I think is here, not Robert Wagner, as smart as he is. I keep looking at you, so I got to pick on you now. Not Odd Job up here. He runs a conference, but he doesn't know it all either. Certainly not me. We all have our little clouds of knowledge. And you notice how these clouds overlap? That's the power in cybersecurity. When we each come with our own set of knowledge and we can tie that all together in meaningful ways, that's how we get there. There is nobody that knows all this. It's funny. I picked on Dave Kennedy a second ago. He and I were talking months ago. I brought up some application security topics. He's like, yeah, that's really not my gig. I'm like, oh, good point, Because you see these big names in the industry and you just assume they know it all. Because they always seem to be talking. I always have opinions on it, right? But that's the reality. That's where our power comes from. And it's because diversity is not about feelings. When we talk about diversity, it's not about making people feel good. We could argue inclusion might be something about that, yes. But diversity is a business value, because I don't care how much you want to say that a room full of 10 white men are going to think about every possible eventuality. They're not, because they don't have the broader diversity of the entire human experience. They have their diverse knowledge amongst them. Yes, they all have different experiences, but the reality is not one of them knows what it's like to be a black woman in this world. Not one of them. So, I did that again. So we have to understand that diversity, whether it's visual things in terms of race and gender and that sort of thing, or if it's less visual things like neurodiversity and so forth, bringing all those experiences, all those different perspectives, all those different ways of viewing the world together into those clouds, that's what matters. That's why diversity is a business value. And then the last one I want to throw in here. And this one's really actually very important, which is why I saved it to the end. I said being a CISO is my goal. I think being a CISO is a goal for a lot of people in cybersecurity, but not everybody. But I also know from personal experience that there are people who have goals of being high-level management in cybersecurity who have actually no interest in being in management at all. The reason is because another thing we're not really good at in cybersecurity yet is building a good career path for people who don't want to be in management. So management just becomes kind of the de facto way you keep accelerating your career. So understand that the decision to get into management is the decision to take on a completely different skill set. The things required of you to be in a management position, you could be a leader without being in management. Being in management is a very specific set of skills. It requires knowledge of things like the topics they teach you in an MBA course, right? You have to be able to understand the business. You're not going to be pushing all the buttons. We kind of joke about that. I think that's a pretty cliched set of knowledge that, okay, yeah, managers, you start to lose your tech jobs. It happens. Could I go out tomorrow and write a bunch of Terraform and AWS to spin up a whole bunch of, no, I couldn't. I understand how that works. I understand what it means. Could I write it? Hell no. That's why I have a team of individuals who know that stuff, who can write that. Could I hop in tomorrow on a Palo Alto firewall and start, writing rules? I might be able to feel my way through it eventually, but Am I probably going to break something? Yes. That's what being management is about, thinking strategically, building strategic visions, all the things that, a lot of times we kind of look at it like, ooh, that's all that corporate-y stuff. Yeah, being a manager means you take on all that corporate-y stuff. So make sure that that's something that you want to do. And for many of you, it may very well be, but understand the difference. All right. Anybody know this guy? Some of you do. In Mudge we trust, yes. That's Mudge. Do you know this guy? That's also Mudge. That is, holy shit, Twitter's a shit show. But it doesn't have to look like this either, okay? So, you stand up here and you look at Mudge. Oh, wow, that was Mudge, but that's Mudge? Like he's in a suit with a tie and he looks all professional because he's sitting in front of Congress right now talking? Okay, yeah. And he probably had to wear that a lot at Twitter. Maybe not, I don't know. But that's what we think about. When we think about going from being a hacker to being a CISO, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to have to start wearing suits. And yeah, okay, I was in an SLT meeting this week, and yes, I had to put on a suit. It happens. CEO of the company is going to be there. Sometimes you do that. But the important thing is that's not every day, and that's not how it has to be, because what gets you there is this. What is that weird-ass thing about you that makes you unique? What is your weird? What is that thing? What is it? Because when you embrace that and you take that and you make that who you are and you own it and you say, I don't give a crap who you are, this is who I am, and you're not going to change it, and you use that to your advantage, that accelerates your career. I will tell you, for the large portion of my career, I thought I had to hide the hacker side. I thought that was something. Even when I was working at Fishnet, and I'm doing application pen tests, I thought, I have to be, white hat, will I say? Ugh, God, I hate that term. But, I got to be a good guy. I got to be I got to be a good hacker, an ethical hacker. Oh, God, I said that one too. I hid it. I didn't want to talk about it. I thought that would be a bad thing. When my career really accelerated, when I started hitting those 1 and 18-month stints, it's because I embraced it. Said, the hell with you. I'm a hacker. That's who I am. You got a problem with that? Tough. Now, granted, I got to see things along the way, like Mudge getting that job at Twitter. Other hackers who were, Katie Maciris, another great example, worked at Microsoft for years and started her own company. That girl is incredible, right? There's so many examples of that. Hackers who became respected, like hackers aren't respected. Well, maybe we're not. But that's the reality. So find your weird and embrace that. So I'm getting the signs that it's time for me to wrap up. My clock is also telling me that it's time for me to wrap up. So I'm going to wrap up. But here's the thing. If you are looking for a job, you're trying to build your cybersecurity career, or you know somebody. If you didn't know, I wrote a book called Cybersecurity Career Guide, but I took the contents of that book and I turned it into a 28-day Get Hired challenge on YouTube. Completely free. I don't monetize the channel. None of that. It is there to help people out. So if you know somebody who's looking, who's trying to launch their career, please point them to that. Alyssa.link/gethired. All right, last thing I'm going to leave you with, well, not the last thing, but quick quote from Barack Obama. I really appreciate this quote so much. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about what you do with it when you fail. How do you learn from it? Each failure is an opportunity to learn, grow, and become better. We don't learn if we're successful all the time. Then we're just successful. You learn when you fail and you have to do something different. All right, love to keep the conversation going with you folks, but I can't do it from up here, so hit me up on social media. There they all are, Mastodon, Twitter, LinkedIn, yeah. Just don't DM me on LinkedIn, because I'll admit my DMs there are a complete disaster. And thank all of you for being here. It has been wonderful. I hope you enjoy the entire day. We've got lots of great stuff coming up. Kathy already told you about a bunch of it. So get out there, have fun, and we'll see you around the conference the rest of the day. Take care.
Couple quick announcements before you fly.